We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday today, and today we have yet another guest. This one you're familiar with. His name is Jace. He's from Texas. And Jace, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me. I emailed you usually a few days ago about having some great guests, but you haven't been able to get to it because you've had so many great guests. So
That's true.
business
That's
is
true.
booming, as you say, in the boomer brigade.
It is. It is. And I really like that. I sometimes get concerned that if I have too many guests, I can't get to the emails. And I think the emails are just as important as the guests because it all has to do with input from the audience. And the emails affords me uh, a lot more input from a lot more people. So that's why it's important to do that. I have right now I've lined up the emails that I currently have, and it's about half hour, 35 minutes of just emails if I go through them quickly. So the next show is going to be a lot of emails. So if you've been waiting for that, don't worry, it's coming. I've got them, and we will talk about them. Now, Jace, you're down in Texas, kind of a weird spot. I get a lot of people coming to me and talking to me and saying, I think we could flip Texas. And I always say, well, Jace lives in Texas and he's not so confident of that. Uh, I don't know who's right or wrong. I think everything is ripe because of all the circumstances. But what's going on in Texas right now?
I think Texas is maybe a few years, and that's if I think what'll help Texas out is some of these older you know politicians that've been up there forever. Either term limits or retiring. You have bright spots like Colin Allred, who's running against Ted Cruz. I'm a little bit more optimistic now about him than I was before, but Texas has a ways to go. Abbott and Paxton just had they were just primarying a bunch of Republicans that voted against their school voucher. They tried to primary our House Speaker, which I forget his name, but he won barely. Tony Gonzalez, who God, it's weird with Tony Gonzalez. He does like the district. It's a big district, and it's all the way down till like Laredo, which is on the border. But it skips a lot of San Antonio. But I'm up in North San Antonio. I'm about 30 miles outside. So I've seen all these commercials with him, and he ran against a guy called Brandon, the AK guy, who actually said something very smart, and that he said he agreed with Mitt Romney that Trump will win the primaries, but he won't win the general election, and they put that on there, and evidently he said something about Barron, but they were both trying to get his support, and they both did enough, I guess, for Trump not to bill them. But Texas is a weird state. I mean, a lot of the country Trump's vilified. Down here, he's a badge of honor if he's on there. He's on the TV. I mean, people down here love him. A lot of people love him. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what the verdict will do. A lot of my MAGA friends or coworkers have been really quiet, but Paxton and Abbott had a pretty good run. They say they got the votes for the vouchers now, but they've pissed off a lot of Republicans who don't like. There's a lot of war going on, and I don't think it's the Democrats that necessarily are going to bring down the Republicans. They're probably going to bring down each other.
Yeah. Well,
They're
that's
crazier than the House. They for every Margie Taylor Greene you see, there's probably 4 or 5 of them. I mean, down here. I mean, I look at her and I think she's crazy. Then I, go on there and see some of our representatives, and it's just batshit crazy.
well, the thing about it is they keep talking about these vouchers and the not liking public schools. Um, I sometimes think that we should just give it to them because when they see the end result, they're going to be pissed off that their kids are uneducated and stupid. And that's what's going to happen if they continue with this voucher thing. Um, and then how do the Republicans respond? I mean, these Republican people that support this whole issue, go ahead, let your kids go to school, let them end up uneducated. Then what are you going to do? You're going to bitch and you're going to turn on the Republicans, but you will have fucked around, found out, but you found out too late. Sometimes I think people should just suffer the consequences of their stupid decisions.
Yeah, but what's sad about it is that the rest of us that, don't make
Right.
stupid decisions have to suffer too. And and the thing about the school voucher system, I haven't met a Republican yet that I know, and there's quite a few down here. Like I said, I'm a blue dot in the Red Sea, and they don't like school vouchers. And what people that, don't, there's two things about school vouchers that I tell people when they call it, they're not calling it school vouchers, they're calling it school choice, which is bullshit. School choice is when you can go to, like, districts down here, you can go to like a school that's not necessarily in your address. That's
Right.
school choice. And what these people that, want these vouchers, like Abbott, who's rich, that doesn't care, two things. If they pass these vouchers and they give them so much, the schools are just going to raise the tuition because they don't want a lot of us lower class, so to speak, people in their districts. I've gone to private school. I know how snobby it is. And it's just like, Trump loves the poorly educated, but none of those fuckers would be allowed at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Those people, with the shirts and everything. That's the same thing with the public and the private schools. They look down upon people that go to public schools. I grew up in that. We're better. Jesus loves us more. I mean, that's the attitude. And when you have supposedly a lot of money with the Betsy DeVos crowd is actually funneling this in. There's not a lot of local support for Republicans. It's a lot of dark money, is what they
Right.
call it. A lot of outside money. So I guess George Soros met his match. I don't know about you, Mike, but I haven't got my check lately. But evidently the Republicans have.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about that. I'm gonna have to call Georgie up and say, "What the fuck? Pay up, bitch. Otherwise, I'm going Trump the fuck." No, the one of the things I wanted to ask you about that voucher thing, and maybe you don't know. It's one thing to say you want these vouchers and maybe have people go to private schools and such. Are those vouchers going to be enough to be able to afford for average Joes to go to those private schools? I mean, it's one thing to give them a voucher,
Yeah.
but is it enough to get into these hoity-toity private schools, or are they going to have to come out of their pocket with something? And if they are, they ain't going to like that.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean is when they say that these private schools necessarily don't want them to. I'm not saying all private schools are bad. I mean, it's like saying that all public schools are good or all public schools are bad. I mean, it's subjective.
Right.
But I don't know. I haven't heard if there's a set rate, but $8,000 may be a lot of money to some people, but to other people it may not be. If you're living in, you're George Strait and you're sending your kid, that ain't going to be a lot of money to you. But if you're, Mike or Jace here, that's a lot of money. Especially, when, people are taking care of their kids, like, their grandkids, what happens a lot, and they can always raise it. I haven't heard them address what that is, but all I know is that it's going to take money out of the private public schools, and Abbott hasn't funded. He hasn't funded. He hasn't funded public schools down here because he was throwing a fit about his vouchers. He wouldn't let them talk about school funding because he was upset about his vouchers, and the districts have called him out for that. And a lot of districts are in the hole because people like to talk about school districts like, oh, they're hotty toddy and they have all this stuff. But I mean, they got to retain people too. It's like a business. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to get, you got to be able to attract and keep the same people. I mean, there's retention bonuses, but it's not what a normal company would do. I mean, and that's what they're at. They have all these openings and teachers. I mean, and down here they want teachers to carry guns now. I mean, there better be a hell of a raise with that involved. So
Yeah.
it's just he's throwing a fit about this, and then he said something about, well, it's not my fault, they should have used some of the pandemic money. I mean, there's always an excuse with these guys. They never, I mean, they're just taking their cue from Trump. I mean, Trump has given them the license to be the dicks that they are. and
Yeah.
I'll say that it is what they are. I mean, and you they don't care. They just, it's their way or the highway. There's no compromise. They're working on something now where they're trying to freeze out Democrats from ever holding office.
Yeah. That's
And the
that's not
Democrats,
surprising.
well, Democrats down here, well, everything's so goddamn gerrymandered too. I mean, Texas has a big Mexican population, Hispanic population, but a lot of them vote. A lot of them vote Republican. I mean, it's like it would be like they're voting against their best interest. I mean, a lot of it's uneducated. A lot of it's Trump has that machismo that they call macho in Spanish. And I don't see it. I never have seen it, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, Trump is bringing shitting in your pants is sexy back, because how that guy, this guy is probably the weakest person in all of politics. But what I've said before, and some people have called me out about it, and this is just how I talk, and this is just how I think. I believe Donald Trump will get beat in November. I believe he'll get decimated in November. Um, but if young people end up voting for Donald Trump and put him back in office, at that point, I've done pretty much everything I can do. I mean, I'm
Mm.
just a little guy. There's nothing really important I can do except stir up some shit. But if the young people elect him or elect Greg Abbott, then you fucking deserve what you get. And then you're going to have to fuck around and find out. It's like with the education in Texas. These guys aren't too bright. Their ideas aren't going to work. So at some point, if they're allowed to do what they're allowed to do, then it's going to fucking fail. And then what are all these people that supported Greg Abbott or Donald Trump or whoever they support? What are they going to do then when they're wallowing in shit in their state? Much like what's happening in Florida. You got no workers, you got high insurance rates. It's fucking horrible down there. And the same thing can happen to any other state that decides to get on board with the Republicans because they don't know what they're doing. They're not doing things based on what's good for the country. It's all about their own little agenda, and their agenda doesn't end up good for the middle class.
Well, I think in Texas, our primary problem, and Beto has said this before, people don't vote.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like I think Tony Gonzalez beat his opponent by 400, votes. I mean it, and I think that's exactly what the Republicans rely on. They rely on pissing the not pissing the people, but just uh, aggravating the voters. That's why they don't want them to have water. Because if you're going to give me water, I'm more likely to stay there and vote. They banned that where you can't give water. I mean, they're trying to frustrate it, and they they have a thing down here in Texas called voter ID, which I personally don't have a problem with. But they act like with voter ID, a lot of Democrats have a problem with it because they think it's it's racial. But I mean, I got to have a driver's license to rent a book, don't I? Or like an ID to rent a book at a library. But that also goes against their argue that a lot of illegal people vote. I mean, you have people checking driver's licenses down here, or voter IDs or some kind of ID, but they're saying, oh, that illegal voting is a problem. And I have a friend of mine that works at a polling place down here, and Trump won it evidently, and there were still people bitching about, well, what about those other votes? Why did they get those? I mean, it's like they win overwhelmingly, and they still bitch about it because they're so Republicans vote. I mean, Republicans vote. You can be 90 years old, you're a Republican, you vote. I was a Republican, I voted. I always made sure I voted. I always drank the Kool-Aid that Democrats didn't vote because we can disenfranchise, not me, but the Rush Limbaughs would say, well, we can really aggravate the Democrats and do all this, and then with the gerrymandering, this really aggravate them. But now this Republican Party that you see out there, they're going to all links to they're attacking Democrats. They're trying to they're taking away women's right to choose. They don't support contraception anymore, even though they said they're for IVF. Ted Cruz. I mean, it's like they're not trying to just people not voting is not enough for them. They're trying to prevent people from voting.
Absolutely.
They're
Yeah.
trying to. This is not your Ronald Reagan party because you know, he, Reagan was a lot of things, but he wasn't in bed with Putin or, the
No,
Russians.
quite the opposite.
But yeah, but the Republicans are just they're trying to physically stop. And a lot of it is they're trying to intimidate Democrats. They're doxing juries, they're doing all this stuff like that. But I honestly think I don't know if it's I don't think it's working anymore.
No, I don't think it's
I
working anymore. I don't
I don't
think it's
either.
working. I don't think it's working anymore. I think there's been some efforts made by the Democrats to push back, and
Yes.
as cowards and bullies are famous for, when somebody pushes back, they get nervous, they get um, scared, or they back off. Something the Democrats are doing right now, and I don't know if you've noticed this, um, and it's about messaging. Uh, a while back, Chuck Schumer put up the bipartisan border bill, and the Republicans shut it down. He then put it up for a second time, and they shut it down again. He put up this access to contraceptives up, and the Republicans shut it down. Now, some people are saying, why would he do that if they know they're going to shut it down? Well, that's why he did it. He wants to keep fresh in the minds of people that it's the Republicans stopping the border bill. It's the Republicans wanting to get rid of contraceptives, or the Republicans. And that's what the Democrats have to do. They have to keep exposing these people for who they are, because people forget or they don't understand. You got to keep running it running it down their throats so they know what's going on. And I give the Democrats credit for using that strategy, because I think it's going to be very effective. You can see the Republicans are upset every time they bring this shit up, because now they got to step up, put their name on it, not only expose the Republican Party, but the individual representatives and senators too. So I think that's a good thing for the Democrats.
Well, the Republicans have been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
They especially in like the Trump districts or whatever, they do that especially in the House. And it's and I think it's funny because it's like the media is almost complacent with the Republicans' messaging. But when you have somebody like Murdoch, who owns the Wall Street Journal, owns the Fox News, they put this hit piece out. They didn't quote any Democrats in there, but they sure as hell quoted a lot of Republicans.
Yeah.
And one of them was Kevin McCarthy. I mean, it's like you're going to listen to Kevin McCarthy. It's like they do is lie. He was on camera saying that Biden was very sharp. You're telling me in a fucking year that Biden has become where he's lost? I mean, he's 80 some odd years old. He's not as fast as he was. Hell, I'm not as fast as I was yesterday. Shit happens.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
sure cleaned his ass. It cleaned his ass on the debt ceiling. He sure owned Mike Johnson's ass. And then you see Mike Johnson calling Biden the worst president ever. And it's like, dude, you're lucky to have a fucking job. And I think next time Marjorie Taylor Greene tries to hang him and get rid of him on the House, Democrats don't need to support that shit. I know why they did it, but it's like the Republicans are throwing all these threats out. They have a 2-seat majority.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy won Kevin McCarthy's thing, so they're up to 2 now. You can't fucking do anything. They own the House, the Senate anyway. And the
Well,
Democrats need to keep doing this, what they're doing in those meetings and in the Senate.
yeah, they absolutely do. It's amazing to me that the Republicans keep going back to the well and doing stupid shit and having hearings. And Mike Johnson's a good example. He got saved for one reason, in order to get money to Ukraine. Well, the money has gone to
Wow.
Ukraine, but we I got a big laugh out of the members of Congress that said, "Well, if you're going to convict our Lord and Savior, we're just going to block every Democratic bill." You've been doing that for fucking 15 years.
Yeah, no
What's
kidding.
new?
Yep.
That's a big threat.
But did you see I think it was Eric Swalwell was talking about the
Yeah.
Trump and kept saying all this. Well, he's not allowed to go here. He's not allowed to go here. I mean, he was just, and Jordan was sitting there like hitting the gavel. Well, Jordan, you've proven right there that you have no power.
Yeah.
But now you want to, bring Bragg in. You're impeding in an investigation. Now they're trying to call Jack Smith up for the Florida case. I mean, and then you see, I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene, and boy, she was pissed. They fucking tell us we worship Trump, and they call him a felon, and the reporter goes, "Well, he is." I mean, and she got pissed. well, you're a part of the swamp too. I mean, supposedly her opponent's like out fundraising her, and it's like, I don't know. I just with Trump and with just it's just even if I didn't vote for Biden, I mean, you just got to think that majority of the people are just tired of the freaking circus.
You would think
This
so.
has been going on forever, and it's like say what you want to about Biden, but he gets shit done. Does he do stuff that pisses off the Democrats sometimes, like with the border stuff? I mean, Biden can't win, and honestly, any president can't win. I mean, you're damned if you do. Half the country hates you, half the country loves you, whatever. But it's just, I don't know. The Republicans are just. I mean, I know. The closer we get to it, I am very well confident that they're definitely gonna get their ass kicked in the House. Senate scares me a little bit, but the White House, I think the White House and the House will definitely be Democrats. Senate's that may be a little tough. But, I mean, if Colin keeps doing it, I mean, if, that girl in Florida is doing good, I mean, hell, they flipped seats in Alabama,
Yeah.
one of the reddest states there. So they're
And
just
Georgia.
they're doubling down on this abortion thing. I
Yeah.
mean, they're doubling down. At Karl Rove said something. He goes, "Well, Trump is stupid because he keeps talking about it and he keeps talking about it." He was talking about Steve Bannon today on True Social, who Trump was, and he was talking about how injustice this was. At the end of it, he made it about himself. I'm
Yeah.
like, God dang, you don't mention. I mean, and he's not going to stop.
Well,
And Biden, you see, Biden is just running his what he's saying.
right.
That's the best campaign is. Trump is the best campaign for the Democrats.
Let's talk about Steve Bannon because that was the big news yesterday that a judge said that he must report to prison on July 1st. And what I'm loving about the Republicans is whether it be, and we're going to talk about Donald Trump's convictions too, but with all the stuff going on, what I love more than anything is watching the Republicans freak out. You know how they always say Donald Trump's living in your head rent free? Well, the Democrats are living in the head of every fucking Republican, rent free and fucking with their minds because you said Marjorie Taylor Greene freaking out. I watched her do an interview where she's dropping F bombs and doing all this stuff. I've never seen her do that
Yeah.
before. But somebody, who was it that came out and said that? Well, a bunch of people were talking about Steve Bannon. They say he's being put in jail. It's weaponized. It's fake. It's unfair. They're going to torture him. And I'd like to ask a Trumplefuck, do you not see the irony? You have a guy in Donald Trump where there's evidence and witnesses, and he's found guilty by a jury of his peers. You have Joe Biden that you want to make guilty of everything, but there's no evidence and no witnesses. And Steve Bannon is the worst of them. The crime that he's been accused of is contempt of Congress. This is pretty black and white. There's no question he committed this crime because he was asked to appear at January 6 meetings and he didn't show. He was asked again and he didn't show. The crime here is not showing up and addressing a subpoena with the January 6th or Congress, and he didn't show. So he broke the law. The fact that he's been out while on appeal all this time, that's the travesty. But he fucked up. You understand how he fucked this up, Jace? He should have took the 4 months in the beginning and got it over with, because now he's going to be in jail July, August, September, and October. He'll be in the 4 months leading up to the election. And he said something one time, there's no jail that will ever shut me up. Well, for the next 4 months, motherfucker, you're going to be shut up because you're not going to get the internet. You're not going to be able to tweet or whatever the fuck you want. He should have just took it, got it out of the way, but his ego would not let him do it. And now he fucked himself. This is why I don't have any confidence in Republicans. They continually and repeatedly fuck themselves over.
Well, they honestly believe that they're going to win, that this is like the Trump conviction and this is going to, cause people to like, turn out more. They only have so much base
Yeah.
in their base, and a lot of
Too
them died
small.
during COVID. So, I mean, yeah, but it amazes me is that people are freaking out and MAGA is getting so pissed off. What is Steve Bannon going to be on trial for this fall? Taking that money for Build the Wall. He ripped
Yeah.
off MAGA. And it's like, he, the worst thing that's happening to Steve Bannon, he's probably going to have to take a shower now. He's going to be in prison. But I mean, he is somebody that Trump fired. And then he found out that he couldn't survive without Trump. So, in my opinion, he came back and, started, him and Marjorie Taylor Greene were up there today and they were calling for a government shutdown over this in September. And it's like,
How are they going
God,
to do that?
Republicans just are they're self-sabotagers. Yeah, I guess there's another. I run out of money in September, I guess, when they got to fund it for next year or something like that. But he was calling for that. This is the same guy next to, they call her Trailer Park Barbie, that have just vilified Mike Johnson and just called him a traitor. And Bannon's called out Jim Jordan and Comer for not doing enough. I mean, it's
Right.
like, now you want them to do a shutdown, and they're probably spineless enough to do it. But what do the Republicans do? They can't pin anything on Trump or pin anything on Biden. So they're gonna refer to the just DOJ to prosecute Joe's brother and his son. And it's like, if that doesn't look like retaliatory politics, I'm not going to vote for either one of those. I'm not going to vote for Hunter or whatever, and Republicans are a joke. And I just, hope the Democrats keep it up till they expose this, because if you have half a goddamn brain cell, you'll see that this shit. I got a friend of mine that doesn't pay attention. He kind of liked Trump at one time. He goes, how does this guy, you know, get away with all this shit? You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, thank you for paying attention. There's a lot of people don't pay attention. If you just freaking opened your eyes to know that this guy is, the Republicans are nuts. They're
Well,
crazy. It's gonna be a bloodbath. As Trump would say, but on
well,
the
yeah,
other end.
the left and right side media, though, is complicit in this whole thing. I'll give you an example.
Yes.
He gets convicted. Donald Trump comes out and tells us that he's fundraising all this money. First it's 40 million, then it's 170 million dollars, and the media is reporting, yeah, it's been a big day for fundraising for Donald Trump because he was convicted. And I have to ask, if you're a reporter, if you're an investigative reporter, that would mean you would investigate things and maybe question things. When was the last time he told us he had a big fundraising day? That was right after Joe
Right after
Biden has
Obama.
it. No, right after Joe Biden has his fundraising day of 25 million. Then he came out and said, oh, I got 50 million. And everybody's going, oh my God, he got 50 million. And then when it came down to it, we found out it was a complete and utter lie. So now when
Yep.
he says he's got 170 million after the conviction, I asked, where do you get that information? Well, you got it from Donald Trump. He already lied to you once. Why are you buying into it and reporting it now? Because when the facts come out from the FEC, we're going to find out he lied again. But he doesn't care because he got the noise in the front end and he'll just poo poo it on the back end when it's not true. That's the game he plays, and that's the game the media allows him to play.
What's funny about it too is that he's not getting them from small donors. He's getting it from these billionaires if he does get it at all. But he's courting and promising all these billionaires tax cuts.
Yeah.
And then he agreed to a debate with Biden, which I still don't think he's going to show up, because
I don't think he's going to show.
You call him a felon one time, he's going to go away. If he's so ahead in these polls and raising all this money, he doesn't need to debate Joe Biden.
No.
The way I'm like how Trump thinks, and honestly, if I was ahead and I believed that polls and shit and I had all that money, I wouldn't debate Biden,
Right.
because it's like he kept the last one. He's so ahead and all this stuff, then he don't need to debate Biden. He's got
And
all this money. He don't need the money, but it's a constant grift for this guy, that he's got to raise that money because he has a lot of legal bills. He doesn't have that much money, and he's not that ahead in the polls, if any at all.
no, the irony of this whole thing is that as much as he didn't want to debate during the primaries, Joe Biden didn't bring up this debate. Donald Trump did. He called him out. He challenged him because, like you say, he needs the money. He needs
Yep.
something. I don't think he expected Joe Biden to accept this early. And I don't think he thought about what he was doing because Joe laid out some rules to this whole thing. And he called him out and made fun of him. And Donald Trump says, yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. And he was all reactionary,
He's
all
desperate.
emotional. He not only is walking into a situation where it's going to clarify their claims. Joe Biden can't finish a sentence, and Donald Trump is brilliant. He's going to go there. He's going to be under rules that are going to work against him. He can't keep. I'm just waiting for how long it's going to take before he gets to Hannibal Lecter in the debate because that's the shit he talks about.
Yeah.
But there's everything about Republicans is about speculation. Joe Biden can't finish a sentence, but Donald Trump is brilliant. When you put those two on the stage and everybody's watching, there's going to be no question who's fucked in the head and who's okay. And I don't see the Republicans allowing him to do that any more than Donald Trump will want to do it. He may be delusional enough to think he can win, and I hope he is, and I hope he shows up because it will be an absolute disaster for Donald Trump.
Well, Trump was ahead in the primaries, the Republican primaries, so he didn't have to debate anybody. So if he's so ahead of Joe Biden, he doesn't need to debate Joe Biden. But the thing about Trump is just you hear him talk. He just Biden's running these of his speeches, and he's just talking. He said something the other day about. I mean, he's still claiming victory for Roe versus Wade. He said something the other day about how well, a girl, she's like, if she has to have a baby and she's forced to carry it, it's a beautiful thing. Some crazy shit.
No, he said
And
he's
and
what he
hell,
said.
hell
What he said was these abortion bans across the country are a beautiful thing. That's exactly what he said. He's
yeah.
saying that these abortion bans coming is a beautiful thing, which is exactly the wrong thing to say coming up to an election where 75% of the people support Roe v. Wade.
And I sit there and I see clips of Hannity talking to Trump. And I used to listen to Hannity, in my darker days, and before I saw the light. And Hannity's not a stupid guy. He's a puppet. But they sit here and I just listen, and I'm sitting there looking at Hannity and I'm going, God, the 1996 version of Hannity would slap you in the freaking face.
Right.
Because yeah, one time the Republicans did stand for stuff, but it's been so watered down that he's sitting there and he's trying to, well, you won't be a dictator, right? You won't be a dictator, right? And it's like, isn't a dictator what you call Gavin Newsom?
Right.
Because he's, this socialist dictator. I mean, it's like these people, and they're not stupid. I think they're in survival mode, because there was a time the Republicans, especially with like W and all of them. I mean, they won elections, not necessarily against Al Gore, but I mean, they won big. Reagan won big because the Republicans stood for something. Do I agree with it? Then maybe yes. Do I agree with it now? No. But the Republicans have no platform, and all their money and all their chips are in on Donald Trump. That's why they're saying they won't respect the election results. Well, they ain't
Yeah.
gonna have a goddamn choice, because the Senate and the House, I firmly believe this will be in the hands of the Democrats.
I don't think
And
there's any
I
question.
hope to God that Joe Biden gets over this filibuster thing, gets over packing the court, because the other side doesn't play by the same rules.
Yeah.
I mean, and Biden is like, the media is treating Biden like they did Hillary. They're holding him to a higher count than they did Trump.
Right.
And Hillary took it. Biden's not taking it. They asked him today if he would pardon Hunter. You know what I mean? And he just said flat out, no, I respect the law. And you look at the contrast. Jill Biden is there supporting her stepson. And it's like Melania's nowhere around, and it's like, and then you look at, Biden's not, the Democrats aren't coming out there and say, oh, this is rigged. This is rigged. If anything, Fox is saying it. Fox is already saying they're seeing the evidence with Hunter. He was an addict. He fucked up. How many people? Robert Downey Jr. He did prison time. I mean, it's an addiction, and it's like, and it's like the prosecution. I mean, well, they're going to lose this and whatever. Yeah, because nobody else would be put on this. It's such a sham. But Biden's not sitting there. He's not. You don't have Sawwell and AOC out there. This is a sham. This is a sham. And I just hope people see it because I mean it's not voting. Both parties are definitely not the same. And if you say that, you're an idiot and you're not paying attention.
I saw a clip of an interview. Maybe it was the interview from the morning show on Fox News. There was a lot of shit in there, like I'm okay with going to jail, but there was a clip when the woman who was interviewing him was talking to Donald Trump, and he was saying, yeah, okay, now, and this is a perfect example of Donald Trump not even able to be bright enough to save himself. She started asking him if you're president, will you declassify the documents from 9/11? He said, yes, of course. He said, will you declassify the documents from the JFK assassination? Well, yeah, of course I'll do that. So will you declassify all the documentation of the J6 thing? Absolutely. Definitely that. And then she said, will you declassify the documentation for Jeffrey Epstein's investigation and criminal conviction? Oh, yeah, but problem. But here's what you got to understand is there's people there. It's a lot of phony stuff in that. This guy is telling us he won't expose anything in Jeffrey Epstein, but everything else. He's worried about the people ruining their reputation. And I say to him, you mean the people that assault underage women, that sexually assault? Those are the people you want to protect, or you want to protect yourself or your buddies? This guy will say anything. He'll lie. He will lie about anything and then just go the opposite way just to benefit himself. But on that one issue, that Jeffrey Epstein issue, he won't say that. Now, the question is why? Is he afraid that he might be exposed? No, I don't think that's what he's afraid of. I think he's afraid of all those big shots that are doing away with the Epsteins and shit like that. He's worried about his own fucking safety, and he should be worried about his own safety.
It's funny when Epstein was hung himself, so to speak. Who was president? It was Trump.
Hung himself.
And I always pointed that out to people. It's like, that's kind of strange. If this was been Hillary, you'd be all over that shit. But the thing about, I heard you and Old Soul talking about that interview was on Fox, how it was really edited. I listen to like I said, I listen to you and a lot of the morning shows, and I listen to Sirius XM Progress, and they play a lot of like the clips because I don't really watch the news, and they talk about it. And Old Soul was saying that how that video was edited, and I went back and watched it. It's like, damn, she's right. It's like somebody that just graduated from high school, like probably that's a cut down. Someone in high school probably did a better job with this. It's somebody they probably saw the shit that was on the cutting room and cut a lot of that shit out because he just talks out of his ass. I mean, he just that would be like, me telling you, yesterday I had a full head of hair, and I know I wasn't gray, and I mean, it's so absurd. And I think that's another reason why the polls don't work is because a lot of people aren't paying attention and I know this because he accepted those debates and his campaign wasn't too happy about it because they see the shit show going on. And I think there was somebody from that used to work for Trump that sent something. I think it was Twitter that said something about to the Wall Street Journal. Well, hey, if you want to talk about the shit that happened behind the scenes behind the Trump administration, give me a call. Like she was willing to talk about it. But he just talks out of his ass and he makes no sense. And it's just like, but his base are just they're just as bad as him. I mean, they were putting, like you see this? This is the Trump rally yesterday in New York. And it was the freaking St. Louis thing when Obama was there because the arch was back there. I was like, huh, I never know New York had an arch like St. Louis. I mean, they lie like him. And now it's like the cancer. It's spread so far that it started in the base. It started with Trump. Now it's it's always, evidently been in the House. Now it's going over to the Senate because McConnell's even, he wrote some piece, I guess, and he did everything but name Trump, pretty much highlighting the mistakes they're making that could cost them the election. But, McConnell does it, but McConnell's all about power. And, he'd sell it, evidently he sold his wife out because, Trump called her, names. But the cancer has spread so much that, there's only one way to cut it out or let it die. It's just overtaken it. And it's like, I don't even recognize this party that, I'm ashamed. And I hear Mitt Romney say, well, Biden ought to pardon Trump. I'm like, you think Trump would pardon Biden? What the fuck is wrong with you, dude?
No, that's
it's just like they don't learn. They're okay with it. And Nixon should have never been pardoned. It healed the country or whatever, but people need to pay for their crimes. People do shit, they need to pay for it.
Well, the biggest problem for Donald Trump or any of the Republicans is that the Republican Party is fractured. It's not unified. And if it's not a unified party, no presidential candidate can win. They need all the Republicans voting for him. And clearly, Donald Trump doesn't have all the Republicans voting for him. But pay attention to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell will give out hints. You remember that Mitch McConnell said, I'm worried about the Senate last time around. And he was right. The Senate did go to the Democrats. Mitch McConnell's not stupid either. He's evil as a motherfucker. But the fact of the matter is he sees what's happening and he's trying to he's trying to cushion the fall a little bit by saying, well, if we don't do this, this is going to happen. I'm sure behind the scenes he's going, you dumb motherfuckers, you got to do this. But they won't even listen to Mitch McConnell. They do everything they can. It's just stupid shit. I don't know if you saw this story, and I'm sure they've changed it now, but on the website for the Republican National Convention, they have a banner promoting it. And they had the skyline of Milwaukee in the banner. Only it wasn't the skyline for Milwaukee. It was Ho Chi Minh City. How do you even make that mistake? Is it sabotage or is it stupidity? Well, what do they think? They think, oh, you can just put any city up there. Nobody will notice. The people in Milwaukee will.
I think, I think the best thing one of the best things that happened to the Democrats is Lara Trump getting in the RNC, because they have taken all that money and they don't have the staff. They don't have the staff to do little shit like that. And and you laugh at it and and people laugh at it. They get some kind of intern or, webmasters, they do a lot. Webmasters, the internet, and I know a lot of them, and they can fuck your shit up.
Yeah.
And they can do shit like that. So, but
like if you don't get paid, if you don't get paid,
exactly.
I'm going to leave, but let me fix something.
They have decimated the whole RNC that I don't think people realize it. That, Lara Trump's talking about, oh, we're going to send these people to watch polls. Motherfucker, you can't get somebody to run your website. But Biden has got this money where he's spread this out. And all you hear from the media is like, well, people are leaving the, Biden administration over, over Palestine and Gaza and stuff like that. But it's like, people are going to have different opinions. But I think a lot of people are smart enough to realize, and Trump has, caught the youth vote. That's bullshit. But that's what the media does. It's like they don't focus on all these primaries that Trump is still losing. Hell, the other night he lost in was it Arizona and Mexico? I get those two mixed up. He lost in New Jersey. He didn't lose, but he lost votes.
Right.
But it's like when something like that comes up as bad against Trump, the media's, well, how is this bad for Joe Biden? That's pretty much what it is. It's like they're not taking into account how fractured the the Republican Party is.
Right.
But they just focus on the Democrats. The Democrats have a lot of splits, but like you said, Mike, when it comes down to nut cutting time, I love that saying. I stole that from you. I owe you money for that.
I stole it
Take
from
it out of
somebody
my
else. I stole it from
take it out of
somebody
my
else.
appearance fee today.
Okay.
And but I love that. But when it comes down to nut cutting time, they're going to vote for Biden because it's like because if they don't vote for Biden and Trump wins, this will be the last election ever. Because we'll fucking have to, we'll Trump, then fucking Don Jr., then Eric, and then that's when I leave the country.
Yeah.
Quote Barbara
Yeah.
Streisand.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back. I want to talk a little bit more about the RNC, and then I want to get your take on the convictions because we hadn't talked since the conviction, and I wanted to see where your head was at before and where it is at now, and what if you were surprised and all of that. But let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. We're back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Listener Jace from Texas is with us. He's been with us before. It's always a pleasure to talk to him. We were talking about the RNC convention coming up, and we're like a month away, so it's imminent. It's coming. We know they don't have a lot of money for the convention. I'd heard some concerns about whether they could even have enough money to have the convention. So they're struggling there. But they've got one more thing that's making it even more difficult for them. They can't find a fucking sponsor. They've been looking for sponsors, but nobody wants to align themselves with the Republican Party, largely due to Donald Trump. They know that things are going to go off the rails after the November election, and they don't want to put their logo in that RNC convention. So if you don't have the money, you don't have staff, and you have no sponsorship, does this convention even fucking happen? And if it doesn't happen, what then?
Yeah, I saw that. I think there was a sponsor, Kohl's, I guess, and they pulled out. And that just broke like a few hours ago. Which I'm not one for to like I remember like when Home Depot had that stuff about oh well, they're a Trump supporter, blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
don't shop there. I don't really believe in that, but I think this is a lot different because it's like anybody that wants to get in bed with a felon is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because the Republicans can try all they want to and like say, hey, oh, this is just a state crime, like that's any different. It's like he got charged in New York because he fucking broke the law in New York. And
Right.
it's like and it's like businesses don't want to have that. Well, Trump's always kind of had a name for not paying his bills. So corporate America may not necessarily be all that wanting to get in bed with a felon. And don't kid yourself because these Republicans always go after like these companies like Target just because they had a gay section. Oh, Jesus Christ. And now they'll probably try to target Kohl's, but I definitely think they see more of what we're seeing,
Yeah.
and they do see that it wouldn't benefit them. Kohl's will be fine. Target was fine, but MAGA will probably try to target them and, keep doing it. That's just going to scare off other businesses. Let Trump go let Trump go talk to Elon Musk. Let Elon Musk fund it. He's such a Trump upper now. Let him do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we didn't talk to you since the convictions came through. What were you thinking was going to happen before the verdict was read? How did you think it was going to shake out?
It's funny. I follow Threads a lot. I used to follow Twitter only for the news because Twitter at one time was a great news source. I mean, it with Facebook, it's mostly like what people are eating and stuff like that. Twitter was great and before Elon Musk took over. So I'm going to Threads now, and so I'll follow Threads and I follow a lot of people that are like George Conway because a lot of them just copy it over from Instagram or whatever.
Right.
And I was sitting there and I was listening to it, and I was following CNN because CNN had a feed of what's going on. I'm like, okay, I'll, do that. And I had a meeting that afternoon. I'm helping another company out with something. So it was a Teams meeting. So they were talking about that and everything. And I saw the notes or whatever. And the last thing I saw before the meeting is, well, they're probably going to, they're going to let them go for the day and
Yeah.
stuff. So I started this meeting. My phone started like blowing up. Like, what the hell? And of course, I'm on this meeting. I'm like, something happened. I know something happened. And so I was in this meeting and stuff, and I'm being gracious and everything. And my phone, and I don't want to look because, you're on camera. And shit, after the meeting, I went to that phone. I had like 18, 19 text messages. Son of a bitch is guilty, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I got a lot of people that, a lot of people that, used to give me a lot of shit for being a Republican, and they talk about it now. But I saw 34. I am surprised. I figured it would be a mix, kind of like what you said, that
Yeah.
some would be guilty, some wouldn't be guilty. But because especially because you had the Trump person on there, but it surprised me at first. But if you look at the evidence, and when I had a feeling he was going to get guilty when they asked for the Michael Cohen evidence and the David
Right.
Pecker.
Right. Right.
They didn't ask for that intern or who's that ever that last dumbass that did that. But I was like, okay, I didn't think he's going to get off. I knew he was going to get guilty there, but I was like, when 34, it surprised me. But I mean, you go back and look at it, it's not really surprising. The guy broke the law,
Well,
and
that's
he broke the law, and he broke it in New York.
well, that's the thing is, I said unequivocally that he was going to get convicted. That just seemed like the most obvious thing. I thought they may try to hedge and throw him a bone and, only convict him of 10 or 20 or 25 or something. And I'm watching them come
Yeah,
down. Ari Melber is doing it, and he gets to the first five. And I go, well, at least the fucker got convicted. At least he got convicted. And then he kept going. I'm
right.
going, holy shit. But when you think about it, it makes some sense. As much as I thought there wouldn't be 34 convictions, I kind of rationalized it out from there too. I thought, well, this is a documents case. If one document finds him guilty, all the other documents should fall in
Exactly.
line. So it was an either or. Either he's completely exonerated or he's guilty all the way through. And what did you think about the impact of the announcement of those convictions, 34 of them? Directly after that, what was your gut reaction to how the country responded to that?
I think the majority of people are. I think you have those people that are going to stay MAGA no matter what. It doesn't matter
Oh
what he
yeah, no
does.
question.
If there's a D next to your name, I'm not voting for you. If there's an R next to your name, I am.
Right.
That's a lot of it. What has really surprised me. I, what has really surprised me is that the Republicans coming out so quick in an election year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why it surprises me. It should be there, but I mean, Susan Collins is so wishy-washy. She's the reason why Kavanaugh got on there because he's changed.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have some Republicans on there that, won't do it. But how the Republicans have fallen into line, it truly just shows me that they are on their last leg. Before this, I wasn't that sure about them, it being, a big victory for the Democrats, but I think this can't help Trump, and it's stupid to say it does. And I think you said it, and I think maybe a listener said it, maybe it was Eric, but I think a lot of those Republicans like JD Vance, like Rubio, I think they're waiting for Trump to fall.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think, everybody was saying, well, Nikki Haley's got worse timing. She's never going to win because she's a woman. I mean, the Republicans will never vote for a woman. Their ideal woman is Sarah Palin. What does that tell you? Um, I just don't. I think it can't help him, and I think I think Biden's done great calling him a felon. A lot of Democrats are hesitant about doing that. You haven't seen a lot of the Democrats. The Democrats, I think, need to defend the jury. But if you just talk to somebody, they're saying, "Oh, it's Biden, it's the judge." They didn't make the decision; it was a jury.
Right.
And
Right.
and I'm glad for Michael Cohen that he was vindicated. Oh yeah, he's a liar. He did whatever. I like Michael Cohen. I think he did a great service. I think Stormy Daniels did. Yeah, are they, are they necessarily two people that you would sit to next to in church? No. But all these people were slut shaming her. I mean, he's the one that fucked her without a rubber. I mean, he's the one that did all this stuff, and he was still denying that he did it.
Yeah.
And these Republicans like JD Vance, like Marco Rubio, they know who he is because they've said it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the
Well,
people like Mike Johnson out there, talking about, how this is, attack. I mean, it's like my dad couldn't be a deacon in a church because he was divorced. Trump's been
right.
divorced 2 times, but
Right.
he can be president, and it's like it's just they're so desperate. And I think the majority of the country is going to see it when they start paying attention, because I think that's what Trump was successful at in 2016 is labeling Hillary a lawbreaker. And when James Comey, or who was our attorney general at the time, did that, it hurt her. This is going to hurt Trump, and I think it's going to hurt him big.
Oh,
And
I
it's
think it.
if it
I
does
think it
anything,
does. I think it
if it
does
does
hurt a bit.
anything, if it does anything but bring the Democrats out, it will keep the Republicans at home, and that will be bad for down ballots.
Well, the thing is, desperation is the key. Panic is the key to this whole thing. As much as Democrats were overjoyed by this, the panic has set in. I mean, you can listen to
Yes.
MAGA people saying now, well, it's not really a conviction until after the appeals. No, bitch, it's a conviction. He may not even get the fucking appeal, so don't worry about that. Um, Secondly, now they're coming out, they're suggesting that we're going to indict everybody else too. Well, how well has that done for
How'd
you?
that work out?
Yeah,
No.
with Joe Biden, with Hunter Biden, with all this stuff, it hasn't worked out. And this is the essence of a bully. They're big on threats, but they're not good on follow through. And if somebody presses them or pushes back, then they fall apart. And that's the stage I think the Republicans are in. They're just panicking now and they're trying to say and do anything to try to push back. And fortunately, the Democrats and the general public aren't buying into it and they're pushing them back. This is the classic demise of a bully. The bully gets away with it for a long, long time. But when that one guy stands up or a bunch of guys stands up and pushes back, the bully's career as a bully is fucking over. And I think that's where we are with the Republicans.
Yeah, and you think they're losing their shit now? What are they going to do when Hunter Biden he doesn't get found guilty? I mean, it's what he's going through with that, and it's like they're very quiet about that. It's like they're in a they're in a thing now to where they're talking about all this, I mean, it's just hypocritical. They're talking about how it's a two-tier justice system. But that shit going on down in Florida is, I mean, she's bringing in outside sources that aren't involved in the case. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if she dismisses it. She's done everything with the scheduling to where it can't be appealable. But she could dismiss this, and they would. I don't know if they'd have to refile or whatever. But I can see her doing that. I can see her dismissing it because I
Actually,
think that
the dismissal may be the best thing that happened.
yeah.
People always because what will happen is that is appealable.
Okay.
So she dismisses, they appeal it to the 11th Circuit, and then she's fucking done. She's been very deft or adept at dancing
Yeah.
around getting appealed. People always say that. Why hasn't he appealed her yet? Why hasn't he? Because she hasn't made any decisions on
Yep.
anything. I mean, the decision about the gag order, she hasn't made that decision yet. She just delayed it, and she's been very good at delaying this shit. But at some point, she's got to make the decision, and at that point, she's got to either side with Donald Trump or Jack and
Smith.
Jack Smith, and if she sides with Donald Trump, Jack Smith's going to 11th Circuit quick, fast, and in a hurry, and she will be overturned and she will be recused. She knows her time is short because it's going to come. She let her dismiss it, because as soon as it does, Jack Smith will be going in commando mode and taking that bitch down.
He's going to be going in on her like Trump did on Stormy. Raw dog. Sorry about that. I had to say that.
Well, what did Donald Trump what did Donald Trump say? This is what Jack Smith will do to Aileen Cannon. Remember in that Access Hollywood tape, he said she was married, but
Oh yeah,
I moved on her like a bitch.
a bitch. Yeah. You know, and it's funny about that too. Is like, I don't know if you've gotten those, and I think you addressed it on there, but I've gotten these texts about, well, Clinton paid off Paula Jones, and and it's like, yeah, but he wasn't trying to, hide evidence from an election. He wasn't, it was something that he paid her off because I guess there was a court case or something like that. This is a paperwork deal where they tried to hide something. But it's like, I get so sick about Republicans. It's like, what ifism? Is that what it's called? Like, what
What
about
about
this?
it?
What about this?
What about ism? Yeah.
Yeah. And I hear about, well, what about Hunter Biden? And it's like, well, I'm not going to vote for him. I'm not going to vote for his uncle either. And it's like, I think the Republicans were really hoping that this Hunter Biden thing would stick. I don't think people care. I think Joe Biden's biggest issue is his age.
Yeah.
And there ain't a goddamn thing he can do about that.
No.
I mean, but it's just that, I mean, I've had friends that gone through addiction, but it's ridiculous. And speaking of dicks, who's our former Attorney General, Bill Barr?
Yeah.
What did he say?
He
I
said
saw
that.
something today that
Yeah, he
this is
said
going to
that
be overturned.
this will be overturned. The hush money case will be overturned, which is
What did he
absolute
say?
bullshit.
What did he say? Did he say about the Supreme Court, or did he say it's going to be in the appeals court?
Um, I presumed he was talking about the appeals court, that it's going to be
Okay.
overturned. The whole Supreme Court thing
He's
is
the
just,
only one I've heard say that. He's
yeah.
the only one I've heard say that.
And he also told us that the Mueller report exonerated Donald Trump. So I don't offer him a lot of credibility.
Exactly.
He should be on deck to be prosecuted too, because he no doubt committed all kinds of fucking crimes. I wanted to bring something up because we talk about, the guilt of the Republicans and how they never have evidence about
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden or the Democrats. And I got hit up by somebody on the comments, and they said, "Oh yeah, what about Robert Menendez?" And I said, "Well, I'm glad you brought him up,
No.
because Robert Menendez is a piece of shit. That's the difference between Republicans and Democrats. As soon as Robert Menendez was indicted and we knew what we knew, we were the first motherfuckers that said, put the bastard in jail. It wasn't like you
Henry
were
Cuellar
gone.
too.
Henry Cuellar too. Put them in jail if they committed a crime. That's the difference between Republicans and Democrats. You make excuses, you lie, you call it fake, you call it a hoax. You fucks are nothing more than incorrigible little children that also happen to be dangerous. The Democrats are at least handling this like decent human beings that believe in the rule of law, that have a little bit of integrity. Yeah, the Democrats got some criminals too, but we're
Oh yeah.
all on board to put those fuckers in jail too. We're not in a cult. We don't try to make excuses for the criminals in our midst. We can't control having criminals in the midst. They're going to come in, but at least we do the right thing and we say, yeah, let's prosecute this motherfucker. So that's the difference. You can't just say Democrats are as bad as the Republicans because of Robert Menendez or Cuellar. We're not, because we handle it differently, and there's far fewer of them than are in the Republican Party.
It's funny. Speaking of the comments, of course, I follow you on there, and I saw you were talking about Trump getting indicted or getting guilty, and and I guess a Trumper guy got on there and said something about like keep reaching or something like that. And I give it to you. You have a lot of people that follow you that that back you up, and I was one of them. And I'm going, okay, you have a point of view. Why don't you reach out to Mike and be on his show? Nothing. Didn't say anything. I'm like, well, why don't you go on your show and tell him why he's reaching? Nothing.
No.
So he was quiet, and then Trump got indicted or convicted. I'm like, how this age? Nothing.
Well, you know
Well,
that
I don't want to go on there. I just never heard of the guy, but you're here commenting. So evidently you want to give your point of view. Mike's open to it. It's open mic night for the Trumplefucks. Come on. But
it
they
is.
don't do it.
Well,
It's like when you got to come up there with the evidence, it's like Congress, going for all this stuff. And it's funny about the Republicans. And I remember Joe Biden and I remember as a Republican and hearing about Joe Biden, I never heard bad stuff about Biden. I always heard he was a good guy. Lindsey Graham said he was a good guy. I always liked Biden because he just, like with the Obama, it's a big fucking deal. He's like us. He has a mouth of a sailor.
yeah.
And I was sitting there and I never heard these stuff about Biden, but I hear what these Republicans do, and they did it to Pelosi. They did it to Hillary. It's the greatest hits tour about how they're corrupt
Yeah.
and it's usually they don't go after men like they do women because they don't like women in a lot of ways like Nancy Pelosi and Hillary, but they're doing to Biden what they tried to do to Obama. I mean, Obama's biggest thing was he wore a tan suit, and I hear these people that they talk about Joe Biden, that he mentions Bo Biden, and that why does he got to talk about his dead son? It's like, do you know any parent that lost somebody that doesn't talk about them? It's their kid. I lost my brother. I don't have any kids. My brother died at 33. I probably talk about him more than I should. I mean, he died young, and it just, it's just the shit that they go after.
Well,
It's
they
just, they're trying to make Biden that. And I never heard none of this shit about Biden until recently. It's because it's the greatest hits tour, what Republicans do.
when Biden became the vice president, I just saw him as a generic politician. I didn't know much about him. I
Mm.
didn't hear anything bad, didn't hear anything good. Um, but talking about his son Bo, that's terrible. Donald Trump talks about Don Jr. and Eric all the time, and they're both fucking brain dead.
Yeah, you ever seen Godfather 2 or Godfather? You seen the Godfathers where I think Don Jr. is the worst. I call him Fredo.
Yeah, he
I'm
is funny.
smart, and stuff like that. But Eric's pretty damn dumb too. And it's like I really think Trump doesn't realize, and I don't think MAGA realizes, and I don't think the Republicans. Well, Republicans may because they're the smartest ones out of the bunch. But he's been calling for these people to come and like show up. They're not showing up. A lot of their asses are in jail. That's why he's talking about the January 6th. Oh, I'll pardon them. You don't think that's a dog whistle saying, hey, you do this for me. When I'm president, I'll pardon you. That's exactly what he's doing.
Well, that's exactly
And
what
it's
he's
like,
doing.
it's like exactly what he's doing. But, it's like you said, and, I see people freaking out. It's like, well, the Republicans are going to do this and that. Republicans aren't in control. And you see Wisconsin had some of those fake electors. Was it Wisconsin
I think
that had
so.
those
Yeah.
fake electors get indicted?
Yeah.
And with Cheesebro. And I first of all, I would change my name if that was my last name, Cheesebro. But who's to know about, and I think when that happened, it's like you kind of there's so much shit going on, you kind of forget about that. And when Biden does win, and maybe Merrick Garland, he actually showed some balls this week. I was actually, but it's his own fault for, it being so late in the game that he's given the Republicans ammunition. But I think you're right about those. I kind of doubted about those sitting members of Congress, but we could be seeing that. And I think that, and the Democrats will have nothing to lose because they'll be in power, and they've got to bring this out to show people what's going on, that you can't get away with this shit. Because who's
Absolutely.
to say 10, 20 years down the road that, they learn from how January 6th was, and they do overthrow the government. You've
Right.
got to set a standard. You just can't be a whipping boy.
Well, and that's the thing. When Jerry Ford pardoned Nixon, it was a matter of, well, we just want the country to heal. They've been through a lot. They want them to heal. And people try to make that comparison as to what's going on now, but it's totally the opposite. If we want this country to heal,
Yeah.
we need them to know that people are accountable, that they are paying the price for their criminal activity. I think not finding Donald Trump guilty would do more damage to the separation in this country than finding him guilty. I think that was the right choice. It was the legal, lawful choice, and it was the best choice for this country because there's no way of backing out of that. And that's where the Republicans are having the problem now. They always have gray areas. Well, that never happened. The election was a fraud. It's too big. You can't,
Oh yeah.
they can talk shit, but this is cut and dried. He went to trial, he was embarrassed, and he got convicted. There's no two ways to look at that. You can't spin it any other way. And this is where the Republicans have the problem. They always have a way to spin it or lie about it, but they
Yeah.
can't, and they don't know what to do with it.
The thing about it is that I don't have kids, and I just don't know how you're a Republican supporting, this guy. And what do you tell your kids?
Yeah.
Do you tell your kids, well, some states are okay, but like Florida, their law matters, but New York's doesn't. And, I've noticed a lot of like that Kevin O'Leary guy from Shark Tank. He was a big supporter of Trump.
Yeah.
Well, this is not, this happens, whatever. I saw him recently. He's not saying much about Trump anymore. He hasn't come out and said anything. I haven't seen him anyway. He just said, well, anybody that can fix the debt crisis, I'm voting for. And it's like, kind of used to be, and you see all these people, they're talking about, the economy and gas prices and all this shit. And it's like, well, Biden's been working on that, but there's only so much he can do as president. But you want this other guy to where he says he's going to make an authoritarian leader. So I think people paying a couple more bucks for gas is going to outweigh that,
Well,
because
and the gas
Trump's.
is coming down anyway. I mean, it's coming
Oh yeah, it
down anyway.
is.
Uh, I was watching something earlier yesterday that they were talking about how masterful Biden
Yeah.
was with this gas thing, where he pulled some out of reserve, he put it out there and said, "You're going to bring this down," and enforced OPEC.
How dare you?
Somebody even said in one of these reports that said the first president ever to break OPEC. We've been hanging on a string doing whatever OPEC has done since I started driving in the mid 70s. And
Yep.
now America does have a little control over it, and they don't have this absolute authority over gas prices and things, and that's due to Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. I get a kick out of when people say, "Well, I want to see who's going to get rid of the debt." You're going to go with Donald Trump, who added $7 trillion to the debt while he was in office
Yeah.
4 years. You know who did balance the budget? Bill Clinton. Maybe we should get Bill back. It wasn't a Republican; it was a Democrat. So, as far as I'm concerned, anybody that supports Donald Trump at this moment in time, if you voted for him in 2016, I'll give you a break. But if you voted for him in 2020 and you're still going to for him in 2024, I'm done with you. I don't care when this is all over. If you say I admit I was wrong, I'm sorry. That's not going to be good enough. There's no coming back from this. If you still follow Donald Trump, you're a broken human being, and I have no fucking time for you.
Well, Mike, you're a lot more was forgiving than I am, because if you voted for Trump at any time,
Yeah.
you're a fucking moron. Sorry. And that's coming from somebody that followed the party. And all joking aside, I think people need to realize, and I hope Biden and the Democrats do that. They need to realize, they like to think back, oh, Trump's ahead because the economy was better. And I don't think people remember the shit we were in with all the bodies in the semi trailers. Was COVID his fault? No, but he fucked up the
No,
management
no,
of
no,
it.
no, 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 no.
And a
I disagree.
lot of people died.
We got to talk about this.
Well,
Was
okay.
was COVID his fault? Yes. Now, did he start COVID? No. Did Dr.
That's
Fauci
what I
start
mean.
COVID? No. But the impact of COVID on this country lays solidly on Donald
Yes,
Trump's back. If it had been a normal
that's what I mean.
president like Obama, there wouldn't have been as much in the way of shutdowns. There wouldn't have been as much death. Donald Trump has to own COVID. Maybe not for the
Yes.
initial part, but for the effects and the uh, traumatic effect it had on this country. That's all Donald Trump.
Yeah, what I meant was he didn't create it in a lab himself. He was the reason it got out of hand.
Yeah,
And he admits that when you listen to that Bob Woodward interview. Yeah. People need to be they need to they they have this nostalgic thing about, Trump, but he inherited that from Obama because I mean, the only thing that Trump came up in the White House, hey, water's wet. And it's like, and he had a good plan to get off Afghanistan, and they blamed Biden for doing that, just following what Trump had said there. People need to forget how people forget that and that's why the good thing bringing up this border deal, bringing up contraception, because if you don't think they're going to go after contraception, and you haven't been paying attention,
absolutely.
because they said Roe was this settled law. Kavanaugh said that. Amy Barron Cohen, Hillary Clinton, whatever her name is, said it. And also
Gorsuch.
the other one, Gorsuch, said it. It's settled law. They lie. And Susan Collins, well, they told me it was settled law. And it just, and what people, Republicans don't know and don't realize this. You love your guns. You love your bullets. But how did America become a country? Because there was a militia that fought against the tyranny. They'll
Right.
come after, if they get in power and Trump's in power, they'll come after those next, because they
Yeah.
don't want a bunch of rednecks with a bunch of guns, trying to fight the government. Don't kid yourself. This is something, it ain't just about abortion. It ain't just about contraception. It's about your rights too. And
Well,
if you don't see that and you don't go and vote, then you're part of the problem.
I think there are a lot of Republicans that are smart enough to recognize that the death knell to their party and to the 24 election in November is that Roe v. Wade, overturning Roe v. Wade. They know it's bad news for them. I mean, you
Oh
can't
yeah.
piss off 75% of the country and expect to win an election. People keep
Especially
telling
women.
me, yeah, well, people keep telling me, well, he could win. I get this all the time. People will come to me and say, why are you so confident? What makes you think he's going to win? Well, Roe v. Wade, 34 convictions. Uh, he can't campaign because he's broke. All the evidence and witnesses have come out. I always say the question isn't why I don't think he can win. The facts are there. The question is, why do you think he can? I mean, I don't see any possible way of him winning if we're using logic, data, and facts. They say, what about the polls? The polls are bullshit. Let's look at the fundraising. The fundraising is really the illustration of who supports who. Polls can be fucked with. They are fucked with. I've got people coming to the show sending emails how they get a call from somebody who's running a poll, and if they don't answer the right question, they don't talk to them anymore, or they lead them down another.
It's
It's
happened to me.
all
Yeah.
it's all bullshit, and it's all fixed. Do not believe in polls. They told you 2022 was going to be a red wave, and it wasn't. So why? This is what I'm saying before. Donald Trump tells you he raises $50 million. We find out he lies. So then he tells us he raised $170 million, and we were going to believe it. That's the same with the polls. The polls are steadily and regularly wrong. But why do some people keep believing it? Why not get a clue and say, motherfucker's a liar. He lied to us last time. Why are we believing him this time?
Well, if anything proves that point, what you just said about the polls, is that a lot of the media is getting on there now. Well, there's not been a really big drop with, this conviction. That fucking tells you right there that they're fucking rigged.
Yeah,
They want to talk about rigged. That motherfucker should be down 50 points. And I think they're gonna get beat. And I don't think it's gonna be close.
I don't think it's going to be close.
They're gonna get beat so bad that they're not gonna be able to do all this bullshit. And they're already trying to prepare their base for it by saying it's rigged. I mean, he's still trying to talk about the 2020 election. There ain't nothing like, able to forget the last election when you lose the next one. I mean, I just don't, I mean, it could be Reagan-esque versus the caucus. I mean, it could be that big. I just don't think America is, I mean, how do you go home and tell your kids like, oh, I'm voting for this, this guy that,
A
that
joke.
lied on this. Yeah, I mean, it's just how do you, I mean, I mean, he still hasn't admitted he fucked Stormy Daniels. Everybody knows he fucked Marco Rubio knows he fucked Stormy Daniels. I mean, it's just so crazy that, I mean, where does it end? I mean, you have people that, man, you have some people that want a dictator. I get that.
I don't
But
get
I
that.
just there's I mean, I get that they're there.
Yeah,
But I believe that there's more of us because there's more people like me that used to do the Republican thing that don't anymore.
well, I mean
But in
that.
my defense, I voted for Clinton before I voted my first president, Bill Clinton. So I
Okay.
haven't been bad all the time.
Well, the thing about it is the polls come out and they say one thing, and this is another reason why I'm confused by the polls, and they don't always
Yep.
tell us because we don't always know what the question are, uh, and what context it was in. Now, after the conviction, as much as they say the polls didn't go down much, they also reported that 49% of the independents said, I'm not voting for Donald Trump because he was convicted. They said that 15% of the Republicans won't vote for Donald Trump because he was convicted. Now, that right there, that data information tells you Donald Trump doesn't have a chance. He's got to have the whole Republican Party, and he doesn't. At least 15% can't stomach Donald Trump and will not vote for him. They may not vote at all, but it doesn't matter. He isn't going to get their votes. Independents, Republicans absolutely need independents to win an election. They can't just do it on the Republican Party. 49%, 50% of the independents said they refuse to vote for him. Just on those two data points, it tells you it's pretty clear he can't win because he doesn't have
Yep.
enough support. Even if he wants to cheat, he didn't. He wasn't successful in 2020, and he was the president. The other thing is
Yep.
where people always say to me, well, they'll just say it's rigged. Well, go ahead. First of all,
Hey, they'd say that already.
it's going to be a decisive victory, and it's going to be harder for them to claim that if it's a decisive victory. Secondly, they've already done it, so it's not like the boy crying wolf. It'll become a joke. Nobody will take them seriously. Some people took them seriously in 2020, but nobody's going to take them seriously. It's going to be pathetic. That's what's going to happen if they claim it's rigged.
And you're going to have a lot of Republicans in the base that are going to, or they're gullible to believe that shit because they still believe they have that Nixon silent majority and that Reagan silent majority. They don't have that anymore. And there's more progressives. And honestly, down here in Texas, I don't know if I've told you this before, but there was talk after Obama won his second term that the Republican Party was done. They didn't have the youth and everything. And that's why if Trump wouldn't have won in 16, the Republican Party would have probably been ceased to exist what it is.
Yeah.
Trump gave them their last shot at it, and that's why they're going to it could be in their political career death this because there's you have people like the Lincoln Project, you have people that that are independents that they want they don't necessarily agree with Biden's policies, but they know a good man versus a dictator.
Right.
So that after the Democrats win this and Republicans die, there is out of the ashes going to be another party, and it may take years for them to do it. But honestly, as smart as me and you are, Mike, and brilliant as we are, not everybody agrees with us. They have different opinions. Imagine that.
And, and to be perfectly honest with you, I've said that before that there are going to be people that are going to try to rise from the ashes and
Yeah.
rebuild and remake the Republican Party. But who might that be? There's only really one person that could be, and it goes totally against the Republican Party right now. The only person that could be there that has some integrity, that has some notoriety, would be Liz Cheney. And I think that's what she was thinking when she got kicked out.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like Liz
Yeah.
Cheney. You don't like Liz Cheney. But for the Republican Party, it's a lot better than Donald Trump. And if they have to remake themselves as a conservative party, she's the only one that's not dirty. Everybody in the Republican Party now, whether they align with MAGA or not, they've been complicit. People will say, I don't believe in MAGA, but you let them do whatever you want. The only one person who hasn't done that is Liz Cheney. And if they're going to try to come back, I'm not even saying they're going to do that, but that's the only person they have that's still clean that can remake the party, or Kinzinger.
I don't think I don't think that they can I don't think that they can I think a lot of the world I mean they're anti-gay, they're anti-abortion. I mean, I don't think a lot of the people in the world are like that anymore. I think a
No, I
lot of
agree.
people accept people. I think people accept transsexuals. They accept they gay people. I mean, gay people vote too. Gay people spend money too. It's stupid to alienate half that crowd. And that's something I don't see lasting. And their policies don't work either because what are their policies? Tax cuts for the rich. Liz Cheney, yeah, went against Trump, but she voted for Trump. She
Yeah,
believed in his policies.
absolutely.
And I never particularly liked her dad. I thought
No,
her dad was the reason.
he's fucking
I thought
Satan.
her dad was. I thought her. Well, Satan gets a bad rep sometimes. Um, I thought her dad was a big reason why W wasn't that he had some of the views he did, and a lot of that stuff, going into Iraq, and that was about the oil. They say it wasn't about the oil. It was definitely about the oil and the power.
Yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
just, and a lot of that was Dick Cheney. He was in bed with Halliburton,
Right.
and that's a whole nother podcast. But it's like the corruption is there, but the Republicans, they're for the rich. They don't
Well,
stand. I mean, you have these lawsuits against Biden for trying to forgive student loans. I mean, it's like they can't get ahead because they got so much debt coming out of college.
which is going to
You
fuck
know,
up the
but
economy.
give yeah, but that's the thing about it. What do the Republicans stand for? When they don't stand with the majority of the people. They don't stand for and how the Republicans are still viewed as Joe Sixpack's crowd. It's just not the it's just that, like Trump said, he hates the stupid voter because that they oh yeah, Trump's masculine, and it's not smart move.
Now, if the Republicans are smart, what they really should
Huh.
do, and Liz Cheney isn't the smart move, it's the logical move for them. But the
She's
smart
too
move,
old anyway.
well, yeah, she's about my age. That's not too fucking old. Back
Yeah, but to
off,
start a
motherfucker.
party up.
Yeah, that's true. Um,
Well, hell, I'm too old. I'm 52.
but my point is, if they want to rebuild themselves, remake themselves, and actually be competitive at some point down the road, it'll take some time. They need to remake themselves as right of center. They need to ease up all the draconian shit that they're involved in. They need to become an entirely different party. Now, I say they do that if they're smart. Problem is, we know they're not smart. So I don't expect them to do that.
Have you noticed how Trump has normalized white supremacists or the white nationalists like that? Who's that guy that he had dinner with or whatever that was a big deal
Yeah.
for about 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, he's speaking at Trump rallies now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that's your Republican Party that's your young Republican Party or the white nationalist. And I know that because I've seen it. There's always been that racism stuff in the party. I remember I was in college and I was asked to join the Young Republicans, and I had no interest because I can talk, and when I get started, as you know, Mike, I don't stop. And I was asked to join them, and I'm like, "What? You mean be in a clique? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like, yeah, I listen to Rush Limbaugh, but I don't agree with what he says." They're like puppets. They get these marching orders, and I see it now with Trump. I was like, I can't do that. I can't be part of a sorority or whatever they're called, or like a club like that because I don't. I can't go along with the crowd. I've got to be an individual thinker, and I think that's why
Yeah, but
I think that's what saved me from MAGA.
but Jace, if you join the young Republicans, you've got to consider this: the cool free brown shirts and jackboots. That that's got to be a draw to anybody.
Yeah, and I remember these Republicans back then in the day that always heard about Robert Byrd. He was in the KKK and he was a Democrat. And it's like, man, Robert Byrd would, I mean, he would fit right in with the Republicans nowadays,
Yeah,
and it's like,
but he he
and
he he excommunicated himself from. I'm not saying he was a good guy. I'm just saying he was in the KKK when he was young, but when he was in
yeah.
Congress, he was no longer in KKK. I mean, if we're going to attach what some people did when they're young, let's go through Congress and see what their
Oh yeah.
their youthful records
But it,
are
but
about.
it, but it's gone full circle because you have this Republican Party that's supporting these white nationalists, and that's the party of Lincoln. It's no longer the party of Lincoln. It's no longer the party of Reagan. And it's like they asked Trump about that. Well, what about David? Well, David Duke votes too. I mean, that's what he looks at. He knows that that's his base now. A lot of that, and he needs those votes to win, and that's why he's courting it.
Well,
And the media should be calling it out on that too.
and the thing about it is that you heard this story um, about if you're talking about the white supremacy. I'm just trying to look it up. I forgot the guy's name.
Charlie Kirk.
No. The two representatives. Um, you heard the story about this representative. I want to say Darnold, but is that what it is? Um, he's two African American representatives are getting all kinds of heat right now because they gave a talk. And
Oh yeah, that's right. I heard about that.
in this talk, they said that, back with Jim Crow, the people of color actually did pretty well back then. Now he's trying to back off of it. They're on TV and they're just getting decimated by it. It was absolutely ridiculous, but they are Republicans, and the Republican Party is so deeply in bed with white supremacists. Even the black representatives are supporting it. It's just fucking amazing to me.
Did we talk about we talk about that because they're what Hakeem Jeffries said. I mean, he was very adamant about it. But I think what that I say gentleman, that guy that said that, he's trying to be vice president,
Yep.
Trump's vice president. Have we discussed who you think we think? I think we talked about off air, but who we think the Trump's vice president pick's going to be?
Yeah, you brought that up, but go ahead. Let us know what you think.
I heard somebody talking about it, and it makes sense to me. He's not going to pick a JD Vance because JD Vance wrote a book about Trump. Not very pleasant. Little Marco not going to do it because he stood up to him. I think it's going to be Ben Carson. I think Ben Carson is another Mike Pence. Although I think Ben Carson would have tried to do what Trump wanted Mike Pence to do. He can control him or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people thought that about and Biden and Obama, that Biden would be the one leading Obama. That didn't help. That didn't happen. He was a good backup for Obama. Obama didn't have much experience back then because we all heard the Republicans talking about that, but they were perfectly fine when Trump got up there. But I can see Ben Carson. I mean, like I said, if once he gets done, storing the grain in the pyramids, he can come back and be Trump's vice president.
Well,
He's
that's possible.
could be,
That's possible. I hope it is, because Ben Carson is a fucking goofball. It would be entertaining as hell. The
and he's a
problem,
surgeon, Mike. How the hell?
yeah, me too. I'm a surgeon too.
Yeah,
I,
me too.
I, I use Q-tips and clean out my ears ill-advised all the time. So I think I'm a pretty adept at surgery. But the problem with Ben Carson is he doesn't bring any votes. He doesn't bring any money.
Well, he's
Somebody else, who did,
but it,
who did I just talk to? God damn. But somebody suggested this. See what you think about this. Um, Somebody's suggesting that the Republicans understand that Trump's time is short. They can use him to try to win. They aren't going to win. But what was suggested is the people behind the scenes are going to force him to take a certain vice presidential candidate like Mike Johnson, make him the vice presidential candidate. And then when
Mm.
Donald Trump either goes by the wayside or they take him out some way, they've got their guy as president. Now, that sounds crazy, but this is Republicans now. It's conceivable because, Donald Trump is a useful idiot and they can manipulate him. But he's got a lot of baggage now. He may be going to fucking jail. He's got a lot of issues. Mentally, he's not there anymore. Maybe they try to put somebody in there that would be the heir apparent that would fit their needs and hope to God Donald Trump cacks.
I haven't heard the Mike Johnson thing, but that's very interesting.
It's
And
an interesting
talking about
thing.
how stupid Republicans are. I mean, him saying he looks over at uh, who did I just say? Ben Carson, and well, he's African American. They'll vote for him. I mean, that's how stupid they are.
Yeah.
And I would just love to see Kamala get on the debate stage with either one of those guys because
Oh,
I think she'd
absolutely.
claim their clock. And I still hear this talk from Republicans about how useless she is. I think she's more of an effort. I think she's stronger than they give her credit for. I think that she's younger. She's and if like you said, if something doesn't happen to Biden, I'd be perfectly fine with her. Because I tell you what, though, I'd be a lot better with her than a Mike Johnson or Mike Johnson has no guts. He can't even stand up to his own party. How the
No.
hell is he going to stand up to Putin?
And my mind
It
is
just,
my mind is going weird here, but actually it was Abe yesterday on yesterday's show that suggested that
oh yeah,
scenario. And it's crazy, but it's not crazy. But the
yeah.
important thing to remember is it's not going to be an issue when people say who's going to be the vice presidential candidate for Donald Trump. I don't fucking care. He ain't going to get the job. Donald Trump's not going to get elected. So it's all futile for the Republicans to bandy about who's going to be the VP. The VP isn't going to be the VP because Donald Trump can't fucking win. That's just the facts.
And if he goes with any like JD Vance or Marco Rubio, which probably Rubio because they're both from Florida, it's not going to look good for the the abortion thing because you're going to have all these men too. I mean, it's Kamala's been out there talking to women about this. I mean, she knows more about the uterus than probably any of the guys on there. That's all I got to say.
Yeah,
And she'll
yeah.
identify with the women. So
She's the she's the vice president and the director of all uteruses. So we can,
yeah,
she certainly has more authority in talking about
experience.
it
Yeah.
than some of these fucks. Well, we're going to
Yeah.
wrap things up. Jace, I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking. Like I say to
Well,
all
thanks
the
for having me.
people, it's always a pleasure to have the listeners on because I think it adds a lot to the show. You're down in Texas. I will say this. I agree with you. I don't think Texas is going to flip, but I think we might be onto something in
Mm.
Florida. I think we might have a
Oh
possibility
yeah,
in Florida.
uh, yeah, I'm with you. I saw that. I saw some stuff today. So yeah, I think Texas. I mean, it's and like I said, maybe Collins would be a good start, but they gotta get rid of this one party rule down here. I mean, or we'll be our own country again. See how long that lasts. Huh.
Well, I will tell you this: if either Florida or Texas flips,
Oh yeah, it's over.
Republicans have no chance. No chance.
Oh yeah.
It's done. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
done anyway, but that would just put the last nail in the coffin. All right, Jace. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us. I enjoyed it. I'm sure the listeners enjoyed it. And just stay in touch because we'll need to get you back to talk about more shit, especially in that fucked up state of Texas.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Mike.
All right. Well, those of you that are listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.